I collected bank statements from our joint account. That was where the first shock waited for me. Over 8 months, large amounts of money had been transferred to a woman named Miriam Bello. Hotel payments followed the same dates. There were also cash withdrawals I did not authorize. Then I checked the loan document linked to our home improvement account. My signature was on it, but I had never signed it. I took the papers straight to Ifoma. She studied them and said, "This is either digital fraud or forgery." I felt sick, but I was not surprised anymore. The man who had humiliated me publicly had already been working behind the scenes. The insults were only the last act. A few days later, Ifoma helped me request full medical records from the fertility clinic. At first, the clinic delayed. Then, one older nurse, maybe out of conscience, agreed to speak discreetly. She remembered us. She remembered that my test results were not the problem. She remembered that the doctor had strongly recommended that Chuka return for further testing because his first semen sample showed severe abnormalities. But he never came back. Instead, someone collected only my incomplete report. When I heard that, I sat very still. Not because I was shocked, because my whole body suddenly understood how long the lie had lived in my marriage. I thought that was the worst part. I was completely wrong. The next clue came from our former driver, Musa. He called me one evening after hearing whispers from family members. He sounded nervous. He said he did not want trouble, but his conscience was disturbing him. He told me he had driven Chuka many times to an apartment in Yaba. He also said the child was already there the year before our wedding. He remembered because the boy had once called Chuka uncle, not daddy. That sentence changed everything. If the child had been there before my marriage, then why did Chuka present him as proof against me now? I asked Musa for the dates he remembered. He sent what he could. It was not perfect, but it was enough to raise serious questions. Ifoma moved quickly. She filed to protect my interest in our joint assets. She also arranged for the legal process around the child recognition to include a DNA test. Chuka resisted at first. He said it was insulting. He said his word should be enough. But since he wanted to attach inheritance rights and change records officially, the test became necessary. He agreed with too much confidence. That confidence gave me more suspicion than comfort. While waiting for the test, more pieces fell into place. I found emails showing he had tried to move a portion of his business shares to his younger sister. I found messages between him and Miriam arguing about money. In one message, he wrote, "Once the family accepts the boy, nobody can question anything again." Not nobody. Not my wife. Anything. Again. That was the message of a man building a story, not telling the truth. I still did not know the worst was coming. A week before the DNA result, my mother-in-law came to my temporary apartment uninvited. She sat on my sofa like she owned my heir and told me to stop dragging the family name through shame. I asked her one question. "Did you know he was lying about my test results?" She looked at me for a long moment and said, "A wife must protect her husband's pride." That was her answer. Not yes, not no, but enough. I realized then that this had never been only about a child. It was about power, appearance, and inheritance. If people believed Chuka was fertile and I was the problem, then he stayed strong, desirable, and blameless. If people saw the truth, his pride would crack. So they fed me to silence. When the day of the DNA meeting came, I wore blue because I needed calm. The room held Chuka, Miriam, my lawyer, his mother, two family elders, and the child's guardian representative. I felt no anger by then, only a tired clarity. The lawyer opened the envelope. Then came the sentence that froze the room. The DNA test confirms that the child is not yours, Mr. Okafor. Nobody spoke. Miriam began to cry first. Not loudly. Just the kind of crying that tells you a person has run out of lies. Chuka stood up so fast his chair nearly fell. He said the test was fake. He said we planned it. He pointed at me with shaking fingers, but even then I stayed seated. Then my lawyer placed another document on the table. It was the clinic record. Not the half paper I found, the full file. It showed my results were within acceptable range. It also showed the doctor's note recommending urgent follow-up for Chuka due to severe male fertility issues. My lawyer read that part calmly. She did not insult him. She simply read. That was when his mother started praying under her breath. But the room was not done with truth. Miriam wiped her face and said she never told Chuka the boy was his. She said he assumed it after helping her financially. Later, when he began complaining that his wife was empty and his family wanted an heir, he pressured her to go along with the story. He promised school fees, rent, and a shop. She admitted she agreed because she was struggling. The little boy, innocent through all of it, had been used by adults to protect male ego and chase family position. At that point, the family elders could not even look at me. I did not smile. I did not clap. I only said, "You called me worthless because you needed somewhere to hide your shame." My voice surprised even me. It was soft, but it landed. Chuka tried one last time to attack me. He said even if the boy was not his, I still had no child. That was all he had left. Cruelty. So I told the full truth. I spoke about the missing clinic pages. I spoke about the forged loan signature. I spoke about the transfers from our account. I spoke about the apartment visits before our marriage. I spoke about the public humiliation at the hotel. When I finished, the room was silent again. Only this time, nobody was silent because of him. They were silent because they finally saw me. The consequences came slowly, but they came. I filed for divorce. I also filed complaints tied to the forged loan documents and the misuse of joint funds. Since the bank records were clear, Chuka could not talk his way out of everything. His business partners heard pieces of the story. Some pulled back. A contract he had bragged about for months disappeared. His mother stopped calling me. His sister, who once mocked me in family groups, suddenly sent long messages asking for forgiveness. I did not answer quickly. The church elders who had advised me to be patient came to see me privately. Some apologized for believing one side too easily. That mattered, but it did not erase what happened. Miriam left Lagos with the child after the legal confusion settled. I helped quietly through a women's support group to make sure the boy had school materials. I did not do it for her. I did it because children should not carry the weight of adult lies. As for the house, the court process was not fast, but the financial records helped me. My share was protected. Money that had been moved without my consent became part of the legal dispute. It was messy, tiring, and deeply unromantic. Real justice often is. There was no dramatic revenge. No one was struck by lightning. No movie music played. But masks fell. And once masks fall, life becomes expensive for dishonest people. Starting over at 34 felt strange. For months, I did not know who I was without the title of wife. I had spent so much energy proving I was useful that I had forgotten to ask whether I was safe, loved, and respected. So I rebuilt, slowly. I rented a smaller place in Yaba and filled it only with what gave me peace. I bought one good chair, plain curtains, and a dining table for two, even though I lived alone. I started sleeping better. I ate when I was hungry. I laughed without waiting for permission. At work, I asked for responsibilities I had once been too tired to chase. My boss noticed. Within a year, I was promoted to finance supervisor. I began taking private bookkeeping clients on weekends. The small accounting firm I once dreamed about no longer felt impossible. I also changed how I loved people. I stopped confusing sacrifice with loyalty. I stopped thinking silence was the same as maturity. I learned that calm women can still set hard boundaries. I learned that helping everyone while losing yourself is not kindness. It is slow self-erasure. My mother told me one evening, "Peace has returned to your face." She was right. I joined a community program that taught basic money management to market women and young wives. Many of them came with the same fear hidden behind different stories. Fear of shame, fear of leaving, fear of being called difficult. When I spoke, I did not tell them to hate men. I only told them to respect truth more than image. 2 years later, I opened a small accounting and compliance office with one assistant and one second-hand printer that jammed every Friday. It was not glamorous, but it was mine. I named it Blue Ledger Services because blue reminded me of the day I chose calm over collapse. Sometimes people still ask if I ever forgave Chuka. I did, but not in the way people expect. I forgave him by refusing to carry his lies inside my future. I forgave him by healing. I forgave him by building a life that did not need his apology to move forward. I never went back. Looking back now, I understand something I did not know then. The day he called me worthless, he was describing what he feared in himself. He needed me small so he could feel whole. He needed me blamed so he could stay admired. But truth has a way of walking into a room without making noise. And when it arrives, even the loudest lie becomes weak. I used to think real family was the people who kept your name. Now I know real family is the people who keep your dignity. If you are listening to me today and someone has built their pride on your pain, please hear this clearly. Your silence is not proof that they are right. Your delay is not your defeat. And your worth does not disappear because somebody dishonest speaks louder than you. Sometimes the truth takes time. Sometimes justice enters quietly through a brown envelope. And sometimes losing the people you trusted is the first step toward finding the life you should have had all along. A week later, I noticed another strange thing. Then came the wedding invitation I never received. His cousin was getting married in Abuja. The whole family was going. I only found out because his sister posted the asoebi online. When I asked why nobody told me, Chuka said the wedding was small, and there was no need for us both to travel. That made no sense. I had helped pay part of that same cousin's introduction ceremony 2 years earlier. I said nothing, but that was the day I started writing things down. Dates, calls, missing documents, bank alerts, sudden trips. I did not know what I was building yet. I only knew my spirit was warning me. Then one Sunday after church, His mother held my hand in the car park and smiled too sweetly. "Whatever happens," she said, "a wise woman knows when to step aside." I looked at her face and felt cold. I asked, "Step aside for what?" She released my hand and said, "Time will answer you." That night, I did not sleep well. I kept hearing those words in my head. Time will answer you. I thought the answer would come slowly. I was wrong. 3 weeks later, Chuka invited both families to his 40th birthday dinner at a luxury hotel in Ikeja. He told me to dress well because important people would be there. I wore a wine-colored gown and pearl earrings my mother gave me on our wedding day. I even bought him a watch, though something inside me already felt unsettled. The hall was beautiful. There were flowers, bright lights, and a live band playing soft highlife. Business friends came, church elders came, family came. I smiled through the evening and served myself dignity the way some people serve rice. Then the program changed. After the cake was cut, Chuka stood up, tapped a glass, and asked for everyone's attention. I thought he wanted to thank the guests. Instead, he looked at me with a face I had never seen before. It was not anger. It was contempt. He called a woman from the back of the hall. She walked forward, holding the hand of a little boy of about 6. The room started murmuring before I even understood what I was seeing. Then Chuka said, "Tonight, I want to stop pretending. This boy is my son." On body went numb. He placed his hand on the child's shoulder and continued speaking. He said he was tired of living a lie. He said he had tried to be patient with me. He said every man deserved legacy. Then he looked straight at me and said words I still remember exactly. "I carried a woman in my house who gave me nothing. I paid for peace, and all I got was emptiness. A woman who cannot build a future with her husband is worthless." Some people gasped. Some looked away. His mother did not look surprised. His sister did not look surprised. That hurt almost as much as his words. The woman beside him stood like she had already won. The little boy looked confused. I felt sorry for him even then. I expected myself to cry, but I did not. I only asked one question. "How long have you been planning this?" He laughed softly and said, "Long enough." Then he said something even worse. He announced that he wanted to recognize the boy publicly and begin legal steps so the child could carry his full name and inherit from him. He said I could either accept reality quietly or leave his house with dignity. That night, I went home with my younger brother. I did not scream. I did not break plates. I packed one suitcase, my documents, and my laptop. Before leaving, I looked around the house I had helped build and realized I had been living inside a performance. Still, one detail would not leave my mind. The boy looked older than 6. And Chuka had once told me he met that woman only recently through a business contact. One of those two things was a lie. The next morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. My face was swollen from the tears I had hidden in the bathroom before dawn, but I still balanced ledgers and responded to emails. Around noon, I called a lawyer my colleague trusted. Her name was Barrister Ifeoma Nwosu. When I sat in her office that evening, she listened without interrupting. After I finished, she asked only careful questions. "Do you have joint assets?" "Yes." "Do you have access to account statements?" "Yes." "Did he ever take a fertility test himself?" I never saw one. She nodded slowly. Then do not argue with him. Let him keep talking. You start gathering truth. That sentence steadied me. So I began. My husband told everyone I was worthless. Then the DNA results changed everything. The lawyer looked at me and said something that made the entire room go silent. He did not raise his voice. He did not repeat himself. He only adjusted his glasses, opened the brown envelope, and looked straight at my husband before speaking again. The DNA test confirms that the child is not yours, Mr. Okafor. For a second, nobody moved. My mother-in-law froze with her hand on her chest. The woman sitting beside my husband suddenly looked at the floor. My husband, the same man who had spent weeks calling me useless, barren, and worthless, blinked like he had stopped understanding English. Even the air inside that conference room in Victoria Island felt heavy. I sat there quietly in my simple blue dress with both hands folded on my lap. I had cried enough before that day. I had lost sleep. I had prayed. I had been insulted in front of relatives, church elders, and friends. But in that moment, I did not need to defend myself. The truth was doing it for me. My husband had told everyone that the little boy beside him was proof that I was the problem. He said that child was the evidence that he was a complete man and I was the empty one. He wanted the whole family to watch me break. But when the lawyer read those results, the same room that had laughed at me became so quiet that I could hear the ticking clock on the wall. And the worst part was, that DNA result was only the beginning. Everything changed because of that one moment. If this story touches your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone you care about. My name is Amara Eze. I was 34 years old when my marriage broke in public and the truth came out in pieces. I lived in Lagos, in a neat 2-bedroom duplex in Lekki that I had spent years helping to pay for. I worked as a senior accounts officer for a logistics company near Apapa. My job was not glamorous, but it was steady. I handled numbers well, I planned carefully, and I never spent money just to impress people. I believed in peace, order, and dignity. I believed that if I stayed honest and patient, life would meet me halfway. I came from a modest family in Enugu. My father was a retired school principal. My mother sold fabrics for many years before her health slowed her down. I was the first daughter and the kind of woman people called dependable. I paid bills on time. I kept records. I remembered birthdays. I sent money home without being asked twice. I was not loud, and I was not dramatic. Even when I was hurt, I tried to speak softly. Before everything fell apart, my dream was very simple. I wanted a stable home, one child at least, and enough savings to open a small accounting firm of my own one day. I did not dream of luxury cars or social media fame. I only wanted a peaceful life with mutual respect inside it. When I met my husband, Chuka Okafor, I thought I had found that life. He was charming, confident, and warm in those early days. He ran an office furniture supply business and dressed like a man who already believed he was successful. He made people laugh easily. He knew how to enter a room and make it feel like he belonged there. When he asked me to marry him, I believed I was saying yes to partnership. For the first year, things felt normal. We prayed together. We hosted small dinners. We attended weddings. We spoke about children, school fees, and maybe moving to a bigger house one day. But slowly, something changed. It did not happen in one day. It happened in the quiet way rot enters wood. It started with little comments from his mother. Amara, are you sure you are taking care of yourself? Amara, in our family we do not delay children. Amara, a home needs a child's voice. At first, I smiled through it. We had only been married a short time. I told myself elders sometimes spoke without meaning harm. But after the second year, the comments became sharper. By the third year, they were no longer comments. They were accusations wrapped in concern. I still helped everyone. I paid part of my younger brother's tuition when he got into school. I sent money to my mother when she needed treatment. I also helped my husband's family more than I should have. I paid hospital bills for his mother after her surgery. I covered school fees for his sister's twins one difficult term. I contributed to burial costs when his uncle died. I bought food items during Christmas and delivered them with a smile. Nobody forced me. I did it because I believed family should support family. But support has a way of becoming expectation when people stop seeing your heart and start seeing only your usefulness. My husband's family praised his younger sister for breathing, but they only noticed me when they needed something. If I brought rice, I was a good wife. If I paid a bill, I was responsible. If I asked a reasonable question, I suddenly became proud. I watched that pattern for years and said nothing. The hardest part was that I never fought back, even when I knew I was being treated unfairly. When my husband's cousin wrecked his car and needed money, I was the one who helped repair it. When his mother's rent issue came up in Surulere, I was the one who moved money from my savings. When his business slowed down during one bad season, I covered more of our household bills without embarrassing him. I kept telling myself that marriage had seasons, and this was just a hard one. But while I was protecting his pride, he was quietly allowing people to destroy mine. By the fourth year of marriage, every family gathering turned into a silent trial. Women would ask me church questions with sharp eyes. Men would speak to my husband in low tones and look at me with pity. I began to understand that my body had become public discussion. I still stayed calm. I went for hospital tests. I took medication exactly as prescribed. I prayed. I fasted. I attended one women's fellowship meeting after another. Each time I came home with hope, Chuka would act supportive for a few days, then return to that cold distance that had entered our house. Then one evening, I found something strange. I was arranging files in our bedroom cabinet when I saw an envelope tucked inside one of his old suit bags. It had the name of a private fertility clinic in Ikoyi. I thought it was another copy of my test results. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was only one paper, and it carried my name. It listed my hormone levels and a note that more tests were needed. That was normal enough. But the page numbers bothered me. It said page 1 of 3. The other 2 pages were missing. I searched the envelope again. Nothing. That night, I asked Chuka if he had collected the full report from the clinic. He looked up from his phone and said, "Why are you checking private papers?" I said, "It is my report." He shrugged. "The doctor already explained it. You are the one delaying us." That answer sat badly in my chest. Not because of his words, because of how quickly he said them.